What it do, Cooks? It's your boy the Hater up in this one. And I just wanted to make a quick video today and talk about something that I don't know if I hate this more than anything ever in the history of wrestling, but it's pretty damn close. And that is this weird thing that we're doing where if someone sucks bad enough to the point where they no longer deserve a job in the WWE, they go elsewhere, and then when they come back, they have superpowers. What the hell is that all about? Let's go over this real quick and discuss how this went down. Number one. All right, first of all, we've got Drew McIntyre. Now, Drew McIntyre is one of the first ones to really do this. In my opinion, he is kind of the first one. He's like the first guy that I can remember to have any kind of success after legitimately just coming back, right? Not coming back from an injury, but being fired or whatever, leaving himself and coming back, right? Drew McIntyre left as a jobber, but interestingly, he also returned kind of as a jobber, right? He went to NXT, which is, you can call it what you want, it's a demotion, right? At that time, it's like you could have, like, I don't know, who like Jinder Mahal, for example, would go back to NXT and he'd win matches, right? Because he's Jinder Mahal, the implications are that he's above NXT because he's in the main roster, right? So, Drew McIntyre was made to suffer, if you will, by being put in NXT, where he had to get over again from the beginning. He was repackaged, he had a new song, he was much more grown up, and he was in much better shape, right? Then when he went to Raw, he was a jobber, right? He joined up with Dolph Ziggler in what can best be described as a jobber mid-card tag team. And then he became like the third man in a group led by Baron Corbin that involved Lashley and Drew McIntyre. And he was clearly the third guy there. And then eventually they decided to give him a push. So he's even actually somewhat excusable. But what about the likes of Cucky Rhodes? What about the likes, of Andrade? Right now, I'm not saying Andrade's going to get a push. He's going to be in there somewhere feuding with Santos Escobar, believe you me. Right? Oh, is Andrade going to go with LWO? Or is he going to go with, Santos Escobar? Which one will he pick? That's going to be the story for him. Let's be real, right? But nevertheless, the point stands, right? Naomi coming back at the Rumble. She was a jobber. Oh, Naomi lost. Oh, she doesn't like losing, so she quits the company. And they bring her back, and I thought to myself, if it were me booking this, I would have Naomi run in, and just every diva in the ring, she wouldn't be a number 2, of course, right? Every diva would just hit their finishers and just throw her out. Beat it. Go back to where you came from. Piss off. Go back to TNA. Go back to fucking All Japan, wherever the fuck else she went, right? So that's the way that I would handle it. That's the way it should be handled, right? If you come from a different company, right? Or even if you come back from a different company, there needs to be a punishment for that, right? There needs to be a punishment associated with you leaving. Now, if you're fired, like Drew McIntyre, then of course you can't punish him for, trying to get a job, right? But if you left on purpose, like Cucky Rhodes, even Christian Cage, my favorite wrestler of all time, right? When he came back to ECW, I'm like, oh, of course you're going to put him in ECW. Even though he was like a main eventer in TNA. Number one, TNA's TNA. Number two, it's like, yo, you left. You know what I mean? You don't just get put back in the main event. You have to go wrestle Jack Swagger and Goldust a few times. And then he got himself over there. And then eventually he had his push, which never would have happened if Edge hadn't retired, in my opinion. And the reason why it wouldn't have happened, obviously, it's not because he's not talented. He's like one of the most talented guys ever. But it wouldn't have happened because of what he did. The fact that he abandoned the company. But nowadays, we have switched this into something else. Now, it's almost like it benefits you to leave the company. If you leave the company and you come back, people get excited for that. Now, it doesn't work out well for everybody. Like Carlito's still Carlito. Andrade's still going to be Andrade. Naomi's still going to be Naomi, right? But most people come back to a spot that was way better than the spot they were at before they left and before they were fired, right? Obviously, the best example is Cody Rhodes, who came back and won the Rumble twice. You know what I mean? What is that all about, right? He won the Rumble twice, and I'm supposed to be like, oh, Cody Rhodes. Oh, wait a second. Last time I saw him, he was a jobber. And all of a sudden, now because he went and wrestled Darby Allin, I'm supposed to be impressed? No. Doesn't work that way, right? Now, I get it. Sometimes life goes the way life goes. But every time they bring someone back, right, with the gimmick that they developed outside of WWE, this person gets this insane boost. Like EC3. He was Derek Bateman or whatever he was in NXT, and nobody cared. He was just a jobber. But then he comes back as EC3 and he gets a boost. Now, that didn't work out, but he gets a boost. So what I'm trying to say, I guess, is in this company, we have various soldiers, like The Miz, and dare I say it, I hate it, but I'll say it, Dolph Ziggler, right? People like that. Mark Henry is a perfect example, right? Soldiers that stuck through with the WWE. And The Miz sticks through so that he can job to a returning Andrade. Have you lost your mind, right? It's the same thing, right? It's the same thing as in ECW, when they would have like people like Chavo Guerrero, you know, who I'm not saying push Chavo Guerrero to be a champion. Like Chavo Guerrero is not a championship material, but Chavo Guerrero deserved at least one mid-card title run. You could make the argument that he got the ECW championship, which is a mid-card, you know, belt, really. I mean, and like, it's hard to just say that Chavo Guerrero was a world heavyweight champion, but nevertheless, the point is, he deserves something like that, right? But you have him go to ECW after his title run and job to people like Yoshitatsu and DJ Gabriel, who like you can look at them and you can be like, these guys are never going to make it, you know? And like, again, I'm not saying Chavo's going to make it, but Chavo could have been in the company for another 10 years, and he's still Chavo, right? So my main gripe is really about The Miz, because I don't like the short end of the stick that they keep shoving up Miz's ass, right? Miz is like one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, and the fact that these returning jobbers or these people from other companies that are like his age but aren't as good, like Finn Balor, right? Like, for example, you have The Miz and you have Finn Balor debut. And okay, fine. Maybe you thought Finn Balor was going to be this next big thing. I don't know why you think that, but maybe you did, right? Or Kevin Owens or Sami Zayn. Why are these people beating The Miz? The Miz should be head and shoulders above them. The Miz should be an upper mid-carder and sporadic main eventer. The Miz should hold like a CM Punk level of prestige. Remember when CM Punk was around? He wasn't really like a main eventer. He had a long title run, but he didn't main event much with that motherfucks. You know what I'm saying? But he was a respected upper mid-carder and sporadic main eventer, right? Once in a while, he'd be in the main event. Like if he were in like, I don't know, an elimination chamber match or something like that, right? He would be a favorite to win, no matter who the other guys are, right? The Miz should be in that category, right? Kind of like Daniel Bryan. You know what I mean? Like when Daniel Bryan came back, like, or even, you know, when he was Intercontinental Champion at WrestleMania, it's like, you know, you felt that like, all right, like this guy is not done with the main event. Like he could be in the main event again, right? He's not a main eventer. He's a B+ player, but he can be in the main event again, right? Similar to how Randy Orton was after he won the title the first time and dropped it, right? Where it's like, all right, like back to the mid card it is, but back to the upper mid card, back to like feuding with people like Benoit, feuding with people like Shawn Michaels, feuding with people like Undertaker, right? Undertaker is probably the best example of this. The Undertaker, you can say however you want to say it. The Undertaker, I know that our recency bias tends to go the other direction, but The Undertaker was an upper mid-carder, guys. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. He was not a main eventer. You know, like, back when, like, I basically at no point in his career was he a main eventer. He was like one step above Kane in the sense that if you had like Kane and Undertaker at the end of a match, at the end of a multi-man match that would determine the number one contender, you could rest assured that Undertaker is probably going to win, right? But Undertaker was like a 4 or 5-time WWE champion. You know what I mean? He was largely an upper mid-carder. But The Undertaker was in that co-main event spot the majority of his career. Like, you know, when the year starts, right? Like, so let's say it's the 2001 Royal Rumble. Like, does Undertaker have a chance to win? Of course. Of course he does, right? But is he a favorite? No, because he's an upper mid-carder, right? He is the Gunther of that time. Obviously, he's better, but you understand what I'm saying, right? Now, Undertaker eventually became like an attraction separate from the main event. He became bigger than the main event. That's why he's a legend, right? I'm not saying this to demean The Undertaker. Undertaker is better than a lot of main eventers. Like, I would say Undertaker is way better than Seth Rollins, who is a main eventer now, right? I mean, in my opinion, he'll always be a mid-carder, but you know what I mean, right? The Undertaker, like, seldom main evented pay-per-views, but that was fine. Nowadays, you have people that leave, and he was also obviously a soldier. You have people that leave, like Cody Rhodes, and they come back, and they just get plugged into the main event. As if I forgot that he was out there jobbing to Heath Slater when he was around last time. Fuck out of here with that bullshit. And that's all I gotta say about that, Cucks, because this is something that really bothers me. It's something that really shows that people don't really care about the storytelling in wrestling, right? The story can just pick up with Cody Rhodes left, now he's back and better than ever. Oh, wait, why? Why is he better than ever? Wait a second. What made him better than ever? Oh, well, you spent a lot of time in the Indies. Okay, how did he get better? By beating lower competition? This would be like last year, Leicester City was relegated from the English Premier League, right? And now they're probably going to win the championship, which is the B League. I think they're top of the table. I haven't looked in a while, to be honest, right? But it's like, you don't expect, Leicester City to then win the Champions League in 2 years. You don't expect Leicester City to win the EPL next year, right? Even if they're promoted. You don't expect them to do that because they're still a level 2 team, right? It takes time to get better. Just because they spent a year dominating the lower league doesn't mean that now they're going to beat Man City. Man City's going to beat them 5-0. I mean, not 5-0, but they're going to beat them like 2-0, 3-0, 3-1, 4-1. Who knows, right? The point is, that's not how the world works. So there's no reason why wrestling should work that way. If I decide to go into boxing and I become a professional boxer and I become world heavyweight champion, right? Then I lose like 5 matches in a row. And I decide to go back to the amateurs and I win 50 matches in a row. I am not a championship boxer, right? Now imagine if I just decided to go pro. I get my ass beat by every pro. I'm like 0-10. Then I go and beat 50 high schoolers and I'm 50-0 in high school competition, right? And then I'm like, now it's time for me to become the world champion in boxing. No, it's not how it works, cuck. So it shouldn't work like that in wrestling. Wrestlers that leave and come back should be punished, but not just punished, right? Like, that's one thing that I want to like kind of, clarify. I don't mean they should be punished in the sense of like, how dare you leave, right? I mean, that's part of it too. But it's mostly like, we have to reestablish you, right? We have to reestablish you. The same way that, for example, Booker T, like, who had never been in WWE until after the year 2000 and 2001, whenever the invasion happened, right? He had never been in WWE. So he's never competed in this environment. So I can't really have him be a legit main eventer once the brands merge. He's going to have to go after the IC title, right? Unfortunately, he's going to have to work his way up and prove, once again, essentially have another Hall of Fame career in WWE, along with the one he had in WCW, to prove that he is a main eventer, right? The same doesn't apply to even Scott Steiner or, what's it called? Hulk Hogan, let's say, right? Or Kevin Nash, because they've had significant WWE careers. Significant and successful WWE careers, right? The only other exception, other than, Booker T, is Goldberg. And Goldberg was just, they just treated, quite, long story short, they treated Goldberg differently, right? They just thought he was special. So it is what it is. But the point is, that shouldn't have happened either, right? And if you remember, people were pissed off at that. They're like, oh, holy shit, wait a second. Why is Goldberg beating Jericho, right? Why is Goldberg beating Brock Lesnar? You know what I mean? No, it doesn't make any sense. So in order to push someone, you have to kind of introduce them well. Unless you're working with like a Brock Lesnar or like, Stone Cold, basically. That's pretty much it. Everybody else has to kind of work their way up. So with that being said, this trend that wrestlers can leave and come back and then they become magically stronger, I don't like it. It needs to stop, cucks.